Welcome to the Multicultural AFL Football Panel Show. Tonight, we review round number 3, analyze good and bad decisions, and preview round number 4. I am Vanessa Gatica, and I'm joined by my two co-panelists, Javier Sincan and Gabriel De Angelo. Hello, guys.
Hello, Vanessa.
Hello, Vanessa.
Round number 3 got underway last Thursday night from the Adelaide Oval as the Geelong Cats mauled the Crows. In a round of tight scores, umpiring controversies, and disappointments, in your opinion, boys, what were the highs and lows of the third round? Which games and players impressed you the most, Gabriel?
Well, I really liked the Gold Coast versus Western Bulldogs game. I really enjoyed the way that the Gold Coast Suns had actually played. It seems like Stuart Dew has really got his game plan set, that the young players are really buying into it, and they're playing really, really well. That win, that wasn't a fluke. They actually won that fair and square, and to the Bulldogs' credit, they came back, they almost got there, and it was sort of a shame that it didn't end in a draw, because it seemed like you didn't want anyone to lose that game. They both deserved it. But Gold Coast Suns, I thought they were really, really good. They really impressed me, and for the first time ever, I actually wanted to watch a Gold Coast Suns match. I thought they were really, really good. And just on another note, another Queensland team, Brisbane Lions against Port Adelaide. They were excellent. You know, the Brisbane Lions, they scored 3 goals in the space of a minute and a half in the last quarter when they were down. They almost lost that game, and all their young players, you know, you've got them doing such an amazing job. You know, Hipwood, Cameron, you know, the big O up front. They're playing so well. They're exciting to watch, and you know, I think Brisbane Lions are going to have a good season.
Well, I agree with the games you mentioned, definitely. I believe Bulldogs probably got a bit complacent, I would say, where they let it slip in the first quarter, and that's it. They just couldn't come back after that. But Geelong is impressing me a lot this year. That's what they were supposed to do last year, I would say. The kind of team they had, where Peter Dangerfield a year before was carrying by himself. Then he had Gary Ablett, and they should have done better. But I believe with the addition of Gary Rohan and Luke Dalhouse, I think that's exactly what they needed. Those guys are like very hard players, and they just tackle so ferociously, and you can see their impact on the game. And that's probably exactly what Geelong needed, in addition to that 666 rules. So I think that's why they're on the top, and they're it would have been hard for them to beat Adelaide, and especially if they kept coming back as well. So I believe that was a very good game for me. And other than that, I believe Sam Walsh from Carlton, I think that's the team I can actually see that they are building up at the moment. And with the it's a shame the players they are missing. I think that's probably what's keeping them away from a win. So Sam Walsh, the player who sort of played on the players who played on that day, like Sam Walsh and others, like they had good work done, but they're missing Charlie Conroy, they're missing Sam Doherty. I think that's a good team to watch. But then again, that was a good performance for me by the Carlton. And Brisbane Lions, as you said, I think they are fantastic this time. Other than that, I was very interested in the Collingwood match, but it was like watching the grand final again. Other than that, watching Gaff taking that many disposals, that's what was bringing you outside that, it's not that the same grand final. Otherwise, Sheeds, Ryan, they just play like how they play the grand final. So.
Just want to ask you about the Western Bulldogs. You said that the Bulldogs were complacent against Gold Coast. You know, the Gold Coast almost beat St Kilda. They should have beaten St Kilda, and they came from behind to beat Fremantle. So do you think that the Western Bulldogs didn't give Gold Coast enough respect? Did you think that they thought they were going to easily win this game, or what?
Yeah,
as a Bulldogs fan, what do you think?
I believe so. That's I think Luke Beveridge sort of shared the same sort of comment as well, that hopefully they didn't become complacent. But I believe that's exactly what they did. Look at the teams they bet before. One is Sydney Swans, one is Hawks, and Hawks 2 in MCG. Like that's
it was a big win.
Yeah, that was a big win, and coming from behind that game as well. Although they nearly did in this one as well, but to let team like Gold Coast Suns, with all due respect to them, we're not sure. I'm just going with their past track record. They shouldn't have let them go that far in the first quarter. So that's other than that, I believe Gold Coast Suns, with all the big names out, I think these players that they got at the moment, they want to win. They've got that hunger. And as you said, I think they're probably buying what their coach is saying to them.
Yeah.
So that's why they're surprising everyone.
They've proven that there's life without Lynch.
Yeah.
That they can win without him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We will be back with more after the short break. There were a number of inconsistent umpiring decisions that defied explanation on the weekend, such as the push in the back, new interpretation, and also the suggestion of some TV commentators believing that the league was not satisfied at the small total scores in the first 2 weeks of the season. That umpires were instructed to be more proactive to enhance scoring opportunities. What do you think about that, Javier?
Well, I believe AFL needs to come clear on these kind of allegations, I would say, where they say that with the players, they're giving them extra free kicks if they are good, and just to feel the people entertained. But then again, on the other side, when they do that, there is the other club, other supporters, like who feel for that, and just with coming up those kind of free kicks to the players, that's not good enough, and they shouldn't be reflecting. They shouldn't be giving out that sort of message to anyone. If it's happening, it's a bit of a shame. So although we know that they're trying to bring in the rules just to make scoring better, well, that's probably the proper way to do it if you want to do the modifications. So if you got the right idea of behind those rule changes. So that means you want to get the flow in the game, and then you want the teams to score freely. So why it is not happening? Then they should search other avenues for that, not this kind of avenue where superstars getting the free kicks, I would say.
Yeah, you're right in that there is some sort of, I don't want to sound like there's some sort of conspiracy theory or anything like that, but I remember watching the Sydney and Carlton game. Buddy Franklin did a clear push in the back. He got the ball marked and scored a goal. And everybody thought that was a free kick. The commentators, everybody said that was a push in the back. And it just amazes me how sometimes these sorts of players like Buddy Franklin, Gary Ablett is someone who has been told, like has been said, gets special treatment. Whether that's true or not, we don't know, we can't verify. But sometimes when you do watch these games, it does feel like some of these players, like the top players like Franklin and Ablett and Selwyn and all these others, do sometimes get away with things that other players wouldn't. You know, and I don't, you know, it's not conducive to the game. It doesn't enhance the game. It doesn't help the game. If a top player is doing something wrong, like a push in the back or whatever, they should be punished for it. They should get a free kick or whatever. So yeah, I haven't sort of noticed that. That's been going on for a long time, and it's like, why is it being told about this? Why are we speaking about this now? This has been going on for a while now.
Exactly, and then I think probably the logic behind that is because they're such good players, umpire doesn't think that they will do something like that. You know what I mean? It's like it's
a poor excuse. Though.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. We're not sure why is this happening, and that's bad for the game. That's all I can say on that one. With the push at the back, I think that the rules really need to be looked at. And umpire should be clear on that, or maybe I don't know, maybe get an extra umpire, so maybe involve the third umpire like we do in the cricketer side. But with these decisions, it's reflecting that AFL can't come up with some good conclusion or something like that, or some good rules which can facilitate our game, which can make our game better. And we are heading into more and more controversies with, especially with the new rules coming in. That's not good for the game.
Another controversial rule that really needs to be looked at more closely is the taking of players under the knees decisions, which are not consistent between umpires, and neither is in the correct disposal of the ball rule. It seems to me that it doesn't exist except for the case of prior opportunity. Finally, the raise your hand and if you want to take the rock hit out rules is totally childish. Should there be umpires' interpretations or are non-negotiable rules, Gabriel?
Well, yeah, I mean, like with these rules, like I can understand why there's certain rules, like for example with the low knee tackles and all that, but it's extremely inconsistent the way the rule is interpreted by the umpires. It seems like some cases, yes, a free kick should be given, and some cases no, and it's like they don't give it or they do or whatever, and it's like, well, the players are getting confused. And the players are getting confused in a lot of other areas as well. There's so many new rules, so many things that are happening that the game is slowly turning into netball. It's not what it used to be. But it's not as what it used to be, not as rough as it used to be. I can understand if there are rules in case of like head tackles and things like that, because we don't want people to be concussed. We're talking about people's health and all that. I can understand that, but there's just so many unnecessary new rules that are happening that it's slowly eroding the enjoyment of the game, and the umpires are slowly starting to become far too involved with the game. The best thing about the grand final is that the umpires are hardly involved. You hardly notice them because they let the game go.
Yep.
They let it be free. It's free flowing. They just let the players do the thing because the players are the most important part of the grand final, the part of the game. And there's a lot of games, like even last week, it was just all about the umpires, it seemed like. And there are sometimes, for example, with the A-League, a referee would front up to the media and say, they would give their decision. They said, why did you give that decision? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? I think the umpire should do the same thing as well for very controversial decisions that they've given during the game, that they should front up and tell the media why they did what they did. Sometimes they need to be accountable for their actions just as players, just as coaches.
Yep, totally agree with that. They need to be accountable, but I would say that although I'm for the rules change for the betterment of the game and whatever they try, but I believe it is becoming too much for the umpires. Too many rule changes too soon. Even when deliberate rule came in, I remember there was like a huge controversy which one was deliberate, which one wasn't. So it took them a few rounds to work it out. I believe that's probably what's happening now as well. Whereas you get Sicily gets penalized for a push, for the same push, whereas others, like which we see in the last round, I've seen in a few games, there was like no free kicks whatsoever. And free kicks from, I think, the last year or so, I was just reading somewhere that it's got much more than what it used to be, how it was last year. So there's that inconsistency coming up. So even the umpires doesn't know. If one umpire thinks this is a free kick, the other umpire in other game thinks it's not the free kick. So it's really getting very ambiguous, like what exactly is going on. And the umpires, I believe, last year, when the AFL was trying, I think they probably needed all those umpires who were doing the AFL. They needed more time for them to actually interpret the rule, and it should be same across the board. It shouldn't be like in one game, as I said before, in one game they're going for a free kick for the same thing, and the other game it's not happening. So how would the coaches prepare? Now I think probably AFL would be saying there's a huge cry about these rules by the spectators, by the fans. So what they expect? So that's what's going to happen, because they see one game and then their team's getting penalized or the other team getting penalized, and then the next game the same thing doesn't happen. So it's really lacking consistency at the moment. And then with that rule with the hand up, I don't know. It's too many rules changing. I believe they really need to focus on the things, how to implement the rules, how to make it better, the rules which are there at the moment. So that should be their focus too, not just bringing the new rules. Although the idea, whatever the idea is in AFL's mind, is probably good to make a game better and everything, to inculcate the new sort of athleticism with the players and this and that. Few of the rules they make according to that, but there needs to be a bit of consistency across the board.
Coming up, round number 4 and the match of the round between the Cats and Giants on Saturday afternoon. So don't go anywhere, stick around, and we will be back after the break with more on the Multicultural AFL Football Show. Welcome back. Tonight is the Sydney Swans from the SCG playing the out-of-form Melbourne. And on the Friday night, Collingwood hosts the Western Bulldogs from the MCG. Which sides do you fancy, Javier?
I would say Western Bulldogs and Sydney Swans. I don't know. I believe from heart that Melbourne's gonna come back in this one. So we know that Sydney not having good time at SCG as well. So I believe there's a good chance for them to bounce back. They should capitalize on that. But whether they will, that's a different question. So I'm tipping Sydney for that. And with the Bulldogs, I believe they play their probably best for the MCG. I don't know. I've just got the feeling, maybe it's just me. They play very good in MCG. But against Collingwood, it's going to be a big task. So I think, although I'm going for Bulldogs, that's purely based on that they will bounce back. I can just see that this time. However, Collingwood, if things are not going well with them, they haven't come back in any game. So just for those little factors, I'm going for Bulldogs.
Yeah, like with Sydney, they're weird. They lose at home, but they do really well away. It's really strange. I'll be extremely surprised if Melbourne win, just because of what we said earlier, how they're not going so great because they've got so many outs, etc. So I think Sydney should be strong at home. The Collingwood and Bulldogs game, that one's going to be a hard one to tip. It's not so easy. I think Collingwood will win just because they're more used to playing at the MCG than the Bulldogs. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulldogs get a result, because they would have been embarrassed with their performance against the Gold Coast. They should have won that game. So I'll tip Collingwood, but maybe Bulldogs.
Saturday takes us to the Qatari, where Geelong take on the GWS Giants. Considering the form of both sides, it looks like a blockbuster, Gabriel.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good game. I'm really interested to see how GWS go in this one, because they have won like most of their games, well, 2 of their games, but they're still missing quite a few of their better players, and they're still doing really well. So that tells you the depth that team has got. It'll be interesting to see how they go against Geelong in Geelong. That is a very tough prospect. You know, a lot of teams don't really do that well against Geelong in Geelong. So it'll be really interesting to see how they go, because it's Geelong at home and they're just so comfortable there. I'm going to tip Geelong, but I really want to see how GWS go in this one.
Yeah, same. I really want to see if GWS is a real deal. This is probably their very good test. Geelong has proven themselves in this this year. So I believe they really need to work hard if GWS want to get a positive result out of that. However, as you mentioned, at home, I think Geelong is going to be too strong for them. And the only reason if they will lose is maybe Geelong had too many wins, so they need to lose one. So that's the only reason I can see them losing. Otherwise, I believe it's going to be Geelong.
Essendon met the undefeated Brisbane Lions at the MCG in what I think will not be an easy game for any side. Very briefly, guys.
Brisbane Lions for me. They're improving so much. They're playing so well, and Essendon, as we know, yeah, even though they won against Melbourne, they haven't had the best start so far. But I'm going to say Brisbane Lions.
I'm going to beg to differ on that one. I'll go for Essendon. Although I really need to say that if the last match that they won against Melbourne, was it really that they played better or Melbourne played the worst? So this will be a good test for them. Brisbane Lions are riding high, as you said. I think they should have been Brisbane Lions, but I'm just giving them a bit of advantage of MCG. And plus, I believe the way Dyson Happel, he carried that team around, and few others realized their importance in that vein. I believe they might be able to give a shock to Brisbane Lions.
Certainly an interesting match at the Adelaide Oval when Port Adelaide challenged the Richmond Tigers. Will the Tigers reverse their recent bad form? Briefly, guys.
I don't think so. It's going to be too hard. Dustin Martin, he's copped a ban. Then Cochin, he's got his hamstring problem.
Revolt.
Revolt, Rance. Going there, trying to defeat Port Adelaide, who've been travelling good, and I believe it's going to be too hard for Richmond Tigers. Yeah,
Richmond have too many outs, too many key players are injured. Yeah. Port Adelaide should win that one.
North Melbourne and the Adelaide Crows at Marvel Stadium. By the way, boys, this is going to be the 3ZZ online digital broadcast live game call from Marvel Stadium in Dinka with Awar Atian and Matoch Ashol. starting at 7:25 p.m. Saturday Eastern Standard Time. Gabriel.
Look, North Melbourne, if they lose this game, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Brad Scott. 4-0, it's not a good start. They had a very bad loss against Hawthorn. They were leading for most of the game, and then Hawthorn just ran them over. And it was the same story against Gold Coast when they played at Marvel Stadium. So if they lose this one, and I think they will, there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. Adelaide, they got a footy lesson against Geelong in their last game. Adelaide, I think that they're a notch above North Melbourne in terms of development and so forth. I'm going to tip Adelaide, but if North Melbourne lose, the pressure will well and truly be on.
Well, I believe North Melbourne should win this one, as you said. I will hate to be a North Melbourne fan at the moment. Reason being, last year, how good were they? And they were nearly in the top 8. And with all those players they've kept, and then addition of Jared Pollack and Aaron Hall, I think is probably injured as well. But still, that sort of added on in some way, and they should their performance should have been better. But they are not performing well at all. Yeah. So I would say, for the tipping purposes, though, I think North Melbourne might win this one and surprise Adelaide Crows.
West Coast and Fremantle go head-to-head in the local Perth Derby. Looks like a one-sided affair, boys.
I don't think we need to say anything on that. That's an easy picking. West Coast are way too good for them. To the point I think they might humiliate Fremantle the way they're playing at the moment. So with 5 out as well, with the big hit up, we haven't had a update on that, but I don't see Fremantle anywhere near.
Yeah, totally agree. West Coast should win that one pretty comfortably. Fremantle are not as sharp as West Coast. Because it's a local derby and they want to win, bragging rights and all that, Fremantle will give a good fight, but West Coast should win that one.
Sunday, we have the last 2 games of the round, with Gold Coast Suns playing host to Carlton, and what I think will be a close game, St Kilda and Houghton clash from Marvel Stadium.
Well, I think Gold Coast will win this game. I really do. I think that Gold Coast, they are playing very, very good footy at the moment. They're playing well, and at home they're going to win. I don't think that's a lot. Well, I think that they will lose some games at home eventually because they're not as strong as other opponents. But against Carlton at home, they should win. Carlton, they're a work in progress. Give them time, they will bounce back. But I don't think it's going to be in this game. So Gold Coast for me, and for Hawthorn and St Kilda, well, I hope St Kilda win. It'll be really, really good. But who knows? With this game, it's really one of those who knows. St Kilda. They weren't disgraced against Fremantle in Perth. They almost got there, but it ran out of time. But they are playing
Excuses.
well. Yeah, I have to. I'm a St Kilda supporter. I need as many excuses as I can. But I think St Kilda, just for the shock and just because this season's been so weird, I'm going to tip St Kilda against Hawthorn in this one.
Well, I don't differ too much from what you said about Saints. I believe at Marvel Stadium they have a very good chance of beating Hawks. I think Saints play their good footy when they play at Marvel. So although I'm gonna still tip Hawks for this one, because I believe Alistair Clarkson might come up with some ideas or so. I'm just, as we all are, we're big fans of him. And other than that, I think Gold Coast Sun, that should be a win for them. Carlton, as you had, work in progress, but definitely in a positive direction. And with the players, with how the players are performing at the moment, the players who are playing, and they are missing few key players as well. Yeah. So I believe it's going to be a very good team in the coming time. So at the moment, I will tip Gold Coast.
Thank you, guys. That's all we have this time for this week. Don't forget to listen live Saturday at 7:25 p.m. for the Kangaroos and Crows on 3ZZZ Digital. This is a Multicultural AFL Footy Show all around Australia on the Community Radio Network and on Aurora-Foxtel. We are also online through the NENBC's AFL Footy website. Stay tuned next week for more Multicultural AFL football news. I am Vanessa Gatica.
I'm Harveer Singh.
I'm Gabriel D'Angelo.
Thank you for watching.